Hello all and welcome back to Hyper Blue Reviews. Today's review is going to cover a pretty infamous game. Well, at least an infamous game at one point in time. I'm going to talk about Mario is Missing for the Super Nintendo. Does this game still draw the ire of those who play it? Or has everyone accepted the fact that people overreacted and the game isn't actually that bad? Well, I guess we'll see. If you regularly watch my reviews, then you know I don't mind edutainment games. Regardless, let's start the review. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, this is an educational game. I think everyone is mostly aware of that by now, but I just thought I'd mention it anyway. So, with that being said, I'd like to attempt to judge this game by the merits of that fact, rather than critique this on a Mario adventure game that never was. Let's dive into the story. The game starts with Mario falling through a hole and landing in Antarctica. Because Bowser's castle is in Antarctica, apparently. Mario then falls through a trapdoor in front of Bowser's castle. I mean, geez, Mario, you fell for the same trick twice. Well, now it's up to Luigi and Yoshi to traverse the multiple floors of Bowser's castle, defeat the Koopalings, and rescue Mario. Each floor has a variety of doors that take you to different locations on Earth. That's right, Bowser's Castle has portals that lead to major cities and touristy spots around the globe. 'Cause why the hell not? The game consists of traveling through multiple doors per floor of the castle. As I said, the doors lead to various real-world locations where Koopa Troopers have stolen artifacts from historical landmarks. Luigi has to defeat these Koopas and retrieve the stolen items. Once the players acquire the stolen items, they need to return them to the appropriate landmark. Once returned, the player will need to answer questions about that specific landmark. Memorization is key here, or you could just take a picture of the information screen with your phone. Of course, you're not learning anything if you do that. You could also pick answers randomly, but if you get the questions wrong, then you have to do something else for a while, as the information kiosk lady thinks you have a fake item. So, once you answer the questions correctly, you're allowed to enter the landmark, and you'll be treated to a 16-bit representation of what it's supposed to be. Huh, neat. To fully complete a world, you have to return 3 artifacts and figure out where in the world Luigi is. You can learn this info by talking to the locals, and by talking to the people at the landmark locations. You just keep your fingers crossed that Luigi doesn't end up in a bad area, though. Where am I? Whoa. Leaving a world is where it gets a little confusing though. Once you know where you are, you have to locate the pipe that you arrived in. You'll see a pokey sticking out of it, which seems weird given that they're not known to do that, but I digress. You need to use the globulator and place Yoshi on Luigi's current location. The game doesn't explain this though, or I didn't see it if it did. So, without the game's manual or guide, this game seems virtually impossible, at least not without pressing random buttons. You see, Luigi needs Yoshi because Yoshi is the only thing that scares the Pokey away, allowing Luigi to enter the pipe. Each floor of the castle is controlled by one of the Koopalings. There are 5 cities to visit per floor. Once all 5 cities are beaten, or I guess when you return the landmarks, then you'll take on a Koopaling. No worries though, they can't actually hurt you. In fact, nothing in this game can hurt you. Apparently, Luigi entered a God Mode cheat. Either that or the Koopalings have been downgraded since their other appearances. They don't even employ any battle tactics either. The only thing they do is run as fast as they can across the screen. Jumping on these bosses 6 times ends the battle, but good luck catching them. They are deceptively quick for turtles. There are only 15 stages in the game, so 3 castle floors in total. But the world map shows a lot more places that you could potentially visit. Unfortunately, not all these places are accessible. It's actually really interesting seeing the world depicted through Super Mario World sprites. In fact, I'd say it's actually pretty neat. What's not so neat is the fact that there are only 3 Koopalings featured in this game. And there's no final boss, which is a bit of a disappointment as well. Let me explain though, and also spoilers, I guess. You do encounter Bowser at the end of the game, but you don't control Luigi at that point. Luigi pulls a lever that sends Bowser down into a cannon. The cannon then fires him into the snow outside the castle. And I guess that's the end of the spoilers. It's a weird ending for a pretty weird game, actually. Let's talk about some of the game and gameplay mechanics that either irked me or made me confused in general. There are non-Mario sprites in this game, and they look very bizarre. They barely resemble a human, and they look completely different than Luigi. They all seem to animate with a great level of detail though, but some are just plain awkward. In addition to that, some of the background sprites also look very bland. And by background sprites, I'm mostly just talking about the background in the intro sequence. It's mostly a solid color, as opposed to the more detailed backgrounds from Super Mario World. Speaking of the sprite work, the level designs are samey at the end of the day. Yes, the foreground and background do change when Luigi enters a new world, but every world is similar. The buildings do look really nice, but it all just starts to look the same after the second or third level. You know, this makes me wonder what a finished Super Mario's Wacky Worlds would have looked like as a finished product. The game had a similar concept, and I remember the level designs looked pretty intricate when I tried the ROM out a while back. In fact, the levels in Wacky World seem to play more like Super Mario World, and not like this Super Mario Easter egg hunt. Anyway, moving on. I find it weird that Luigi earns cash rewards for returning artifacts, as it doesn't really do much. I believe it's added to the player's scores at the end of the level, but I'm honestly not sure. Players are also timed on how quickly they can beat a level, and that's added to the score as well. But does anyone really need a score in this kind of game? I don't know, I don't. Another thing that irks me is that all of the Princess Peach looking information people say the same thing after answering their questions correctly. I get it makes things easier to copy and paste things, but they could have changed the dialogue up a little bit at least. One of the biggest gripes I have with Mario is Missing are the maps. The maps get very large and annoying to walk across in later levels. I get that levels should increase in difficulty as the games progress, but make the questions harder. Some levels have a lot of twists and turns and walking all over to find one Koopa, and honestly that's a pain. Speaking of walking, Luigi moves incredibly slow. Players can press Y to make him run at super speeds though. And what bothers me about it is, I don't get why that's not the default option. I guess it's a lot like a Mario game in that aspect, but I don't know, it's just weird to me. The funny thing about this though, if you jump without holding the Y button, and then press and hold the Y button while midair, Luigi will speed up. It's almost like holding Y fast forwards the game. And the same can be said when riding Yoshi. It's just a little silly in the grand scheme of things. Speaking of Yoshi, where does he go when you complete a level? You see him standing in a doorway after you complete a level. Why can't he come with us? Here we are busting our asses off, and Yoshi's over there sipping Mai Tais on the beach. Lazy bum. What the hell, man? To me, this could be where an actual enemy mechanic comes into play. Have the Koopas hit Luigi and Yoshi runs away. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. Let's talk about the bosses. As I mentioned, there are only 3 Koopalings in the game, and they all look identical. Seriously, the bodies are the same on all 3 sprites. The only difference is the Koopaling's head. Now, since we're talking about boss fights, let's talk strategy. Take a look at how I handle the Koopalings. Any questions? As I mentioned before, the bosses just run from left to right. That's it. Some Koopalings might be faster than the others, but it leaves me wondering, why is this even necessary? Okay, that's enough gripes for one review. Let's talk about some things that I liked about the game. I will say that the music is pretty nice for an edutainment game. It's remixed Mario music, so it's going to be awesome by default. The only downside, there are only really a handful of songs, so that's a bummer. Also, some of the music is out of place, like in this ending scene. My favorite thing about Mario is Missing has got to be what happens when you jump on the Koopas. They don't get knocked out of their shells or retreat inside them, they get obliterated. The ones that are holding the artifacts get it even worse. Some turn to dust and others ascend to heaven. All in all, Mario is Missing is an alright game. If I were younger and didn't know what this game was and I decided to rent this, I would be pretty mad. But as an edutainment game though, it's not bad. The reading bits are chock full of information on the landmarks and area, with the exception of some of the info pertaining to trivia. For instance, there's a part where Luigi has to return King Kong to the Empire State Building. And no, I didn't just make that up. You find King Kong in the game. The funny thing is, King Kong isn't even in the picture of the Empire State Building after you unlock it. It's really weird, and it doesn't really fit the education narrative. Unless you're a film major, I guess. I don't know, I just thought I would mention that. Actually, I do have one more weird thing. There's actually a reference to the Ninja Turtles at one of the information kiosks. Again, it's weird, but also pretty funny. So to me, there isn't much replay value for Mario is Missing, or entertainment value for that matter. Some of the questions have pretty funny answers, but that's about it. I wasn't wowed with the game, and it's too basic. The action is unnecessary and also out of place, albeit funny. Granted, for me, I could sit there and just jump on Koopas all day long, but after a while, it does get pretty old. I'm giving Mario is Missing 2.5 exploding Koopas out of 5. A point for the music, a point for the exploding Koopas, and a half a point for the edutainment value in the information that it tries to teach players. Seems fair to me. Alright, that's it for this month's review. Hope you enjoyed. As always, thank you for watching.